This is a Bulldog Radio podcast.
Season 3, Episode 53 of the MVSP podcast. I'm Joe Nagy along with Brandon Worth. Welcome to the show, everybody. Got a great one for you. As always, going to hop into the Ferris State Sports Report, some NCAA bracket March Madness, review the play-in games coming up, and a little bit more of the games we're excited to see, as well as finishing out with some MLB lockout and free agency news, which is going crazy right now. Brandon, how are you, buddy?
Oh, it's great. And the money is flowing everywhere. It
really
seems
taking
like
advantage
right
of that
now.
no salary cap.
Yeah, I mean, the no salary cap, even outside of MLB, I don't know if you saw this, Joe, but apparently there's a high school kid that's going to be making like $8 million off an NIL deal. I don't know who it is, and nobody knows who it is, I guess, except for obviously, the one that signed the contract. But all we've learned, money's flowing. Von Miller's now with the Buffalo Bills. We got Freddie Freeman with the Dodgers, and there is money going literally everywhere. It's nuts, but it's a wild time to be a sports fan.
For sure. That's what free agency is all about. But we're going to hop in right to the Ferris State Sports preview of the weekend, as it is Thursday, and we got a pretty action-packed weekend for the spring sports coming up. We're going to start with tennis. Women's tennis is going to be taking on Grand Valley State, as well as the men's, 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and then 3 p.m. on Sunday as well for the men's. This one's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be, anchor bone. Come on.
Anchor bone, baby.
I feel like the rivalry doesn't come over to the other sports, but to me, it's like, anytime Grand Valley's on the schedule, like, hey, let's go. I know Ferris Housing put up a thing on social media inviting everybody to the game, which is awesome because if you're going to show up, let's make it the biggest rivalry of the year. Come on, let's go. Like, let's pack the Racket Center. There's quite a few places to sit too. Like, I was really surprised when me and Joe there, we were able to sit front row, and I know I took some elevated shots up from the balcony, which is also a very underrated place to watch the games at. But going to be a tough opponent nonetheless. Rivalries, doesn't matter where you're ranked, doesn't matter your record. Put it clean slate, 0-0 really is what the record should look like, because every rivalry game is going to be close. There's no doubt about it, regardless of what the team's success has been so far. But really looking at the women's side, being able to keep the singles roll rolling, because they've been playing pretty well in the singles court over the last, especially the men, being able to sweep that section against Mercyhurst in their last match. That's a huge one, and really looking to continue that over. That was some of their best matches from the weekend. So I think that's something that is going to roll and into momentum and be a huge thing for this team. Because I think when you look at down the road, because we're going to be facing some tougher teams down the stretch. Conference and obviously regional opponents we've already played throughout this year that are really tough teams. We played Western also as well, and then we played teams like Hillsdale and Walsh that are tough opponents as well. And then also the Southern teams just played over spring break, and some of those teams have been playing outdoors all year. And we mentioned that on the last episode too, which you can now check out on YouTube. You're just listening to that right now. Quick plug for that, but definitely going to be interesting with this rivalry game. Being able to be at home is going to be a huge advantage, and really, looking to keep that momentum rolling over from Mercyhurst last Friday.
Absolutely. And it's going to be opening up the GLIAC play for everybody. This one's going to be a good one. We're both 8-2 on the season. Grand Valley has a very solid team. Their top number one player, Pep Canyadel, is coming off a fresh little GLIAC men's player of the week. So that one's going to be a tough one, especially for Matisse being able to take him on. And we got a lot of solid players too. I think the doubles for the men's and women's is pretty solid. We rarely ever, struggle with those often, so that one's going to be really solid to watch. I'm excited to see those, especially because the energy is always up for those. With two people, you can really kind of see the chemistry flowing a little bit, and those are some of my favorites to watch too, especially with just how solid we are on both sides, and the depth we have for those, for at least that section of the match, is really strong for the men's side as well. So Grand Valley is always a tough opponent. They're always usually we etched them out last year for the GLIAC tournament, or for the GLIAC championship. So they're going to be coming in with a vengeance, but hey, we're hosting, so I think it's going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, hosting is a huge advantage, and I think a lot of people I think they look at regional rankings a little bit more. I honestly think that home court or home field advantage, I think, comes a lot heavier of an impact, I think, than sometimes when you're looking at a bunch of rankings and you're looking at analytics. I think strictly being able to play on a floor that you practice with every day, that you're able to dial in exactly where your spots are on the floor, I think is something that a lot of people overlook, especially with tennis as far as surfaces go. Not every surface is the same. There'll be regulation, but they're not the same. And everybody kind of knows that regardless of sport. That, I mean, even hardwood floors are different, especially the indoor tennis facilities. I mean, it's basically, how dated is it? But what's the lighting like? That's a one that I think a lot of people overlook as well. But
is it going to be outside or is it going to be inside?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but I mean, either way, I think our teams are ready. And I mean, we've played some great tennis over. I mean, the men's side, obviously, you mentioned Matisse getting the win last week in a 3-set. And then, I mean, we didn't even have Jan playing in the singles. We had Yannick Madura as our number 2. We had Josh McDermott and those guys picking up wins as well. So, I mean, the depth on the men's side, I think the women's side just as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of growth so far from this team already through the first couple weeks. We obviously lost Morgan Waller already for the season. Sounds like with a shoulder surgery. Shoulder surgery. That's a good one there. Shoulder surgery for the season, but seeing a lot of the younger players step up. Like Davida, like Lavinet, Parker Dolan, Patricia Gomez, Sam Stevenson being able to step up and make those big runs up in the higher seed matches is going to be a huge thing. Because really, next man up, I mean, we're talking about that more in March Madness, but easily could relevate over into tennis play right now here in March.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Grand Valley on both sides, I think, is almost the same record. And if you look at the teams that they played and the ones that kind of are carrying over, it's almost the same exact thing, with the results. I mean, they beat Walsh 5-2. That was the same for us. I mean, we were able to sweep Hillsdale, but, they still were able to have a convincing win over them, especially with Finley as well. Pretty solid there. So, a lot of similarities between these two teams with us and Grand Valley. So it's going to be solid. Please, pack the house. I'm going to be there. I don't know if you're going to be there, Brandon. I don't know if you're covering women's tennis, are you?
I'll be there.
I'll be there too.
Wait,
I'll be having a blast.
Friday?
It's Sunday, I think.
Sunday, that's what I thought. Okay, that's why we double check these things. So yes,
Fresh out of church, and I'll be there.
I will probably be there as well. And if you are going to the game, make sure you report to the Tennis and Racket Center over past Bulldog Party Store, the Holiday Inn, if you guys don't know where that is.
A little bit tucked away.
A little tucked away, but still easier to find. Those games will be on, the 19th is Saturday, big dog.
Is it?
Yeah,
man.
That's what I thought. I will not be here Saturday.
I don't even know my dates.
I said Friday too, so we all messed up. So
Saturday's fine. I'll be there Saturday anyways.
Be there Saturday. Women starts at 11. Men starts at 3.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad we ironed these details over before I drove in a car after a long run to get to a tennis match that did not exist. That's why we have this show.
That's nice. That's nice.
For you guys. Anyway, moving on over into the rest of the Ferris State Sports Report, including softball that concluded their Ferris State spring break slate of games down south in Florida. Look, a lot of good things coming out. I mean, we're going to have some tough regional opponents coming up in Findlay on Saturday and Ashland on Sunday. 1 and 3 o'clock games Saturday and 12 and 2 o'clock games on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Good regional games. I mean, both teams quality opponents, and I mean, I think that both teams are beatable. I mean, you can put records aside and compare all you want, but I mean, this team showed a lot of great things, and I mean, especially offensive wise. I mean, over 32 hits in the last 4 games. That's a really good recipe for success. Obviously, we didn't get all the wins that we've wanted, but the offense is starting to come together. Dial in the fielding, get a little more strikes, a little more strikeouts as far as pitching wise, and then you're looking in pretty good shape. So I think overall, you like what you see. Obviously, we've had a little bit of trouble with the errors as of late, averaging around 2 or 3 each game. So that can be a little bit of an issue, giving up free base runners. But I think that's something that kind of comes over with obviously being outside, like we mentioned on Tuesday as well, being able to see how it adjusts from being inside to outside can take some time. And I mean, really getting natural reads off of bounces, playing the dirt and the grass is different than a rubber room gymnasium, basically. A much different game. So that'll come over with time. But I mean, being able to iron those things out and being able to get offensively consistent, as well as being able to get that pitching dialed in and get everybody back on healthy too, because I know we're missing a couple pitchers at the moment. So that's going to be huge and important. But right now, young talent can step up and earn their spot, because these are some crucial games coming up before conference play.
For sure. Ashland, with Ashland and Finley coming up, I mean, those are 2 teams that are really solid last year before last year before Ashland left the GLIAC, now in the GLVC, but we were able to see them a little bit, so we're going to be seeing some pretty familiar competition from them. It kind of sucks, though, that we're not going to be able to open up at home for another, 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks, I think it is. So that's going to be tough to be on the road for these next couple weekends. But I think we're going to be pretty solid. I think these are two good tests for us to be able to come back from Florida and be able to play, in, that Midwest weather where it might be a little bit colder. I think next weekend it's supposed to not be 60. I think it's supposed to be 45,
pretty
50.
Close, yeah.
I think so, a little bit colder, but nothing you can't really bear at all because that's pretty nice weather, honestly, for this time of year. So
yeah, in Michigan, we'll take it.
For sure. If we can just keep that up, we've been hitting pretty solid. What's our team batting average? I think 230 or something like that, 270, somewhere in that ballpark. So could get a little bit better. I think that's what we're going to be looking for, especially with, the on-base percentage too. I think we're just below 500 on that. So, a lot of improvement we can have before the season starts. These are 4 games that can really help us get ready for that. So, these doubleheaders are crucial for development. I think that's what is on the mind of the girls right now.
Yeah, Josie Prince being able to get GLIAC Player of the Week for her performances over spring break was great. She's batting .292 this season. Kylie Winkles is hitting the ball extremely well. Right now batting .397, .724 slugging. That is very, very good. Hot start for her. And a lot of the other veteran players as well. Paige Courts has been playing really well so far. Caitlin Orme as well. A lot of great things that we're seeing from the veterans and even some of the younger players. Amara Zukowski right now is batting .293. We're doing really well hitting wise. And the fielding has been great as well. But not really. I think the biggest part of the fielding aspect, getting used to being on the field, I think takes more time than people think. And I'm not saying know your way around the field. That's different. But when it's cold in March and you're playing these games where you're playing teams that can hit the softball really hard, and you have to make those adjustments throughout the game, especially at a high rate, because when you kind of get stuck out there, especially in the outfield, I know I have experience with this. I know Joe can have experience with this in the infield as well. You kind of just get stagnant. It's hard to keep moving, and once a ball is hit, it kind of makes you have to restart everything. It's not like you're out in the summer days and it's hot and it's you're nice and loose all the time. Where in the cold, muscles constrict a lot faster. It makes it a little bit more difficult to especially get a jump off of ball really quick. And that can adjust for sure over time.
Yeah, for sure. Baseball and softball are games of prolonged inactivity with short bursts of incredible activity. So that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand. That they see with it, so that may make it it's boring to watch a little bit for people, but they don't understand how impressive it is for people to stay focused throughout that whole time when they might not get balls hit at them for 3-4 innings, and then they have to make one that's a really tough play, and they're able to make it. So that's the one thing. Just got to be ready for that when the cold weather comes, because you obviously know we're probably going to have maybe a couple more sub 32 degree days coming our way, most likely on game days, because that's just March for Michigan weather. So pretty excited for that, but regardless, can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing you look with this team is right now getting shelled a little bit as far as pitching is concerned. And those things happen. They happen all the time. Baseball is really, or softball. Gosh darn it, I did it again. Any softball, baseball,
it's the same thing basically.
It's very similar, and I get them mixed up sometimes as far as the acronyms and the analysis for it. But there really is the same. It's a game of stretches, right? You're going to have a 7-game win streak, and then you're going to go cold for 5 games. That just happens naturally. So, and I think especially being able to respond to that has been great to see. Especially winning the last game on the trip after dropping a couple in a row. That's good momentum going off of the trip and going into these games. So, going to be important being able to get a lot of runs across the board and being able to sit some batters down a little bit more at a higher rate, I think will really get us the keys to victory.
Yeah, well, when you look at it, a lot of these games, if you especially with this Florida trip, the ones that we have lost, we've stuck with it. We're only one or two losses behind, and the ones that they score a lot, especially with other than Sioux Falls where we lost 7-2, we're usually 1 run. Pretty close to 1 run or 2 runs or something like that. So we're right behind there, and we have the bats going. It's just maybe a couple of at-bats where we just maybe slow up a little bit. It doesn't go our way. Maybe we are, a little bit lackadaisical. Who knows what's going on? But I think we're going to be pretty solid, especially seeing that we're able to get runs on the scoreboard, and that's something good to see, especially this early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. But going on over now into Bulldog golf. I mean, obviously wrapping up from Whispering Pines in North Carolina. A lot of good things. I mean, really had a great. I mean, I would say this was fantastic considering, I mean, a huge field overall. I mean, I heard that there was over 170 on the men's side, at least individuals competing from all these teams, and being able to finish in the top half for the men's side is huge. And on the women's, yeah, just a solid little win there. You know, that's nothing to sneeze at all. Just another trophy coming home to Big Rapids. So that's a great way to start the season. Coach Stark right now and his teams are looking very good, looking very sharp. I mean, especially coming off of the winter hiatus, obviously only playing in the simulator. The adjustments have come over really well, and they're going to be right back in action this week in the SVSU spring invite for the men's team, and then the women's team, I believe, are going over to Findlay for a tournament this weekend, March 21st and 22nd. So that's going to be good. Another little regional test to see how we're playing, and I mean, adjustment of the course, and prove that it wasn't a fluke that we won it, because I think a lot of people, based off of that we lost a lot. I mean, especially on the as far as some of the upperclassmen for both of these teams. But I mean, our core was built with a lot of the young players, and I think that a lot of people might have forgot that. I mean, especially in the rankings, I thought I don't think necessarily like the rankings revolve around the perception of this team going in, because I think a lot of people are like, yeah, this is a legitimate team. And we're kind of getting slept on a little bit, that's what I'm trying to say. And I think this win might have just, ease on the brakes a little bit, because both of these teams are fantastic right now. First season with Coach Stark, so that's awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one thing to look forward to, especially when we kind of return home and get back to Michigan golf, because it's like, I mean, that's the thing with, the Michigan weather this early in the year is like, your hands might get a little bit cold. It's a little bit different. I think that's where we're going to strive, especially seeing that, we're like you said, we're a young core. And I think that's the one thing too, we lost a little bit, but I think that just makes it the fire under us a little bit better, because we have something to prove. I mean, we're reigning GLIAC champions. We want the ring again. And, with the core that we have and leaders that we have on the team, I'm sure that we're going to really make a fight for it early and later on in the season.
Yeah, I think it's a long campaign. I mean, we're playing all the way basically till almost June. I mean, May 20th could be the potential last day of the national championship. So a long season, 2 months of road ahead still. So not a whole, and I mean, this is with all the teams right now. I mean, we're making quick analysis just based off of the first couple games we see. Could be completely different teams by the end of April, early May. And obviously, we'd love to see that for the improvement. And I think there's a lot of good things that can come from it, especially with the young core on the women's side of golf, or on the women's team, and as well as the men's team as well. But still some veteran leadership that can bring in a lot of good experience, and really being able to relate it over to both teams. And really I think that golf team's chemistry too as well. I mean, they love playing for each other, and obviously they got a great culture there, and they're being able to really utilize that in their chase for the championship.
Yeah, and I mean, we still got Thomas Hersey, who played really well, and I mean, young guns on the team too that have really been, showing out a really, really solid. I mean, if you look at the women's side too, I mean, we finished the GLIAC 4th or 5th last year, and we go up and we win this Brown golf. I mean, we come in clutch and we win this whole thing. So I mean, that's one thing too, where we just look at it.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how hard it is to win a tournament in golf.
You gotta have five extremely solid.
You gotta have five players play extremely
solid through a multiple day period. You might have a fluke one day. You might have a really good match or round one day. And I mean, that's the one thing about golf that's really I feel like that one's more of like that's almost as much of a streaky sport as like softball and baseball is.
It could be up there. Yeah, I would agree. It could be up there. And I think that it's harder to. Like, I think baseball, like the flow of the motions kind of differs itself a little bit more, because like every game is kind of different. And I mean, golf is kind of the same way, but I feel like it's so, I don't want to say it's monotone, because it's not, but motions are similar throughout any course. You're going to be hitting similar shots. You're going to be hitting a lot of different angles as far as the course is concerned that translate over into other courses, right? So if you have a bad day, you're going to have that chance for redemption, and you're going to have a different look at it. But I mean, the motion itself it comes down. It's so tedious for how repetitive it is. There's just times where you seem it can really be really streaky because of how you're hitting on the face, or how you're able to hit your driver, or maybe you're not being able to punch your low irons at all. There's a lot of different things that go into it. Whereas like baseball or softball, you really have kind of one motion, but it already changes. Everything changes enough as it is. Like you're not having the same game every time. Oh, every pitcher pitches different, every batter hits different. And I mean, for your individual game, you're like in golf, you're going to be hitting 70 shots almost guaranteed every single tournament or every single round or two. You're going to, in baseball or softball, you don't know how many fly balls are going to be hit to you. You know how many grounders are going to be hit to you. You don't know how many times you're going to get up to the plate. So those things change a lot, where I think you can definitely have that change in difference that doesn't let it kind of fall into that monotone, like repetitive swing that you can lose yourself with a little bit, unlike golf, like you just mentioned, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the one thing that I'm looking forward to for this season. Hopefully we can be able to see a couple of them in person if we can make it to a couple. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of them that are close, though, for us to go to. Maybe the one in Augusta. Who knows, for the League Championship.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd like to go down there and see them hoist another trophy. That'd be pretty sweet.
Pretty sick.
Pretty sweet. But filing out the Ferris State Sports Report, I mean, not a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, we'll talk about track, obviously, more and more as we get closer to it with Spartan on April 1st. But we do have some news within the football world. Spring practice schedule has been officially announced coming up as they open practice tomorrow, as this episode released Thursday. So spring practice beginning on Friday, March 18th in Big Rapids. I mean, this is going to be really the tale of the year and kind of coming in as how this team looking in spring. And I mean, we saw a lot of good things last year, and it translated right over into what exactly we were shooting for. So a lot of good things coming up. The spring game has been officially scheduled as the 15th practice of the spring practice period. That will be Friday, April 22nd at 3 p.m. Top Tiger Field, Crimson and Gold spring game. Should be really fun. I noticed they have a lot of night practices on Wednesday nights, which honestly is pretty cool. I would love to see some of those practices later on, just because I feel like that's like a cool like chill out time to where you kind of don't have a lot going on. I mean, I know me and Joe have some busy meetings and stuff we have to go to, but in the happen of those getting canceled, I mean, spring practice, Joe, I mean, I'm down. I would love to go see them play under the lights.
I'd be down too. That would be awesome. That's one thing I'm excited to. I miss like working football for athletics, and I think just having the spring game will be kind of a nice little refresher. Be back up in the press box, run some stats a little bit, see our team play. I'm not sure how many people are going to show up because it is spring game. We've never really experienced it before because like COVID canceled a lot of them. Yeah, or like at least for like fans to show up to.
Yeah, so last year's was virtual, which was kind of gross.
Yeah, weird.
But I mean, still gonna be exciting, and a lot of people obviously live for Ferris football, and that's totally acceptable for how much this team wins. And obviously everybody will probably, I'd say we'd probably see a pretty good showing, especially after bringing home the national championship last year. I think there will be a lot of people that'll look at that spring practice and be like, yeah, I feel a little more apt to go check them out this time around as opposed to last year when it was just kind of a chance and now it's actually reality. So, but a lot of things coming back. I mean, we got a lot of dogs on their way out, but we got a great young core that's keeping in, and a lot of players that, really blowing out some of these teams was good because it gave a lot of the younger teams experience and a lot of the younger players playing time. And those were huge, especially going into this campaign where now that playing time from 15, potentially 10-minute period of the quarter, or the whole fourth quarter for some of the games is now going to be stretched to play all four quarters like you did in the fourth quarter some of these blog games, and you're going to have a good chance. Because I thought we saw a lot of great things from guys like Carson Clark. I thought we saw some good things from Evan as well, who is going to be crucial in a backup role behind Malik most likely. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of great defensive players, especially on the offensive and defensive lines that came in rotation last year. So a lot of good things to come forward to. Really, it's run it back mentality, and I think there's nothing less you can do because this team performed really well, and that's going to be a high expectation of standard, but that's what they live by. That's Coach Anis's philosophy, and they sure proved that this year.
Hey, we've been having that high standard for years now. We haven't lost a regular season game in a while. I'm gonna knock on wood real quick.
Thank you, sir.
But we have that standard and we have that excellency that is expected of us, and that's the one thing that I think a lot of guys understand, but they're welcoming it with open arms because that's what's going to make a a great program, that much better. And I'm saying it right now, Malik has a chance to win the Harlan Hill.
Ooh, calling it.
I'd say so. I think if he gets the starting job, if he can secure the starting job, and he can really open up the field. I mean, was able to get a lot of rushing touchdowns. I mean, when we played Northwest Missouri State, like he picked apart their defense with his throws. He was 17 for 19 against one of the best, or again, other than us, like one of the best pass defenses in the country. And then he was able to get 25, 30 yard scrambles, out of the pocket when it collapsed. One thing though, got to protect the ball. But other than that, I think he's going to be really solid. Watch out. He might be in the Harlan Hill conversation for next year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the things that I think people are going to be looking at is how well is he going to do with ball security. And because I think that was really his only knock last year, to be truthfully honest.
He ran it by his side, like when he was scrambling. So that's like the only thing. But other than, Jared struggled with that too. But it's going to happen. Like if there's going to be times where it's just a fumble, like the ball gets hit in the right spot and it just pops out. So we'll see how it is. I know he's going to be working on it. He's a incredible talent. Plus, we got Jesse and we got Evan that are going to be coming up too. So watch out, Ferris State football, repeat possibly, and we're going to have a really great season next year. Can't wait for the spring game.
Can't wait for the spring game. Make sure you follow all of that information at FerrisStateBulldogs.com. But that's it for the Ferris State Sports Report. We'll be right back with March Madness and MLB free agency right after this.
When Brandon and I first started our podcast, we didn't know really what to do. Bulldog Radio helped us out, but the one big thing that really made us really go to the next level was Anchor.fm. If you want to start your own podcast, go through Anchor.fm. They make it so easy. They make it a one-stop shop for you to record, edit, and publish your podcast. And not only that, they publish it to a whole bunch of different platforms for you to go on. We've talked about it. You got CastBox, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. So if you guys want to start your own podcast, go on Anchor.fm. You can make your own account, start editing, start recording, and start publishing your podcast today. And we're back after our short little break. The first four are in. March Madness brackets are all set and square. Games are going to be starting tonight. Michigan's going to be playing tonight to start off everything as well. Very excited for that. But Brandon, those four games were absolutely crazy. Rutgers versus Notre Dame going into double overtime. That was ridiculous. Indiana going over Wyoming to lock that 12 seed. Texas Southern over Texas A&M CC. I don't know what that CC stands for.
Corpus Christi?
Yes, exactly. You told me that already, but I forgot. They locked up 16th seed, and the other 16th seed is Wright State as they won over Bryan 93-82. These games are crazy. You want to start with the craziest one, or you want to start with Texas Southern?
Craziest one.
We'll start with Rutgers and Notre Dame. That was crazy.
Yeah, it's St. Patrick's Day, and you could have asked.
You couldn't have wrote a better story, really.
Yeah, no better luck, right, for the Fighting Irish. And what a clutch bucket that was to seal it. What a game. Double overtime, getting the putback for the win. That was a huge win for that team because I think everybody, even ourselves, really. They looked like Rutgers' game to lose, really. It seemed like going into this game, and they had their spots where they were making runs and potentially could have ran away with this game. But, you got to give credit to the Fighting Irish, man, for keeping it in there. Ron Harper hit that huge 3-point shot, and he looked like he was like, yep, we're knotted up. We're going to triple overtime, but huge putback by Atkinson with less than 2 seconds to go. And that's what you wanted. The right place at the right time, and certainly came for Notre Dame. And right now, that's a team that I like. They're going to be playing an Alabama team, and they have every right to beat Alabama for how streaky that team has been. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We saw a lot of great things from their guard play. Blake Wesley, I think that, he had 8 points. Atkinson definitely led with 26, but his 8 points and his 6 boards, the boards were definitely huge in this game, and that's going to be somewhere Alabama struggles because they like to get out and run. They're a great offensive team, but defensively, if they're giving up possessions offensively, they're not going to be able to stop with defense, and that could be one reason that Notre Dame might just let that luck of the Irish run a little longer than we might expect.
Yeah, for sure. They played really solid. Their down low presence is one thing that I noticed in this game was something I think that's going to propel them to pretty well success. I don't know if they'll be able to beat Alabama since they were kind of on a little bit of a roll. They're kind of in between. I was definitely going for that upset if Rutgers made it over. I thought that they had just a little bit more of a wider range of weapons rather than Notre Dame because, they made some good shots and stuff, but you can definitely tell their game plan is just going to get it inside and kind of damage it with that because, a lot of their late game success came from inside the paint. So that's one thing that you got to watch out for this game coming up. So that one's pretty solid. Notre Dame, it was pretty evenly matched, honestly, throughout the whole game. If you look at the stat line, I mean, especially with 3-pointers, Rutgers edged them out with that. But then, I mean, with rebounds and everything else, like it was, like you said, Rutgers' game to lose on the stat sheet. They edged out Notre Dame just barely by about everything. But I mean, I guess it's just the heart that you got to have when it's March Madness.
Yeah, and they gave the ball away too many times.
That's true.
13 turnovers,
were bad.
and I mean, credit Notre Dame's defense in those stretches. They definitely came in clutch down the stretch because it looked like there was some times at 1-10. Rutgers looked like they were going to run away with it, but I mean that's a huge defensive stops, especially in the later overtimes. Obviously, Ron Harper got his, but he had to bank it home. I mean, I think that definitely says a little bit that shot was contested, but still a great shot from him, and he was going to be the shot maker that we probably saw. I mean, I know personally I saw this game going close, but I was like, yeah, Ron Harper's going to end it, not keep Rutgers in it. It would have been the other way around. And I mean, you got to give Notre Dame credit. They played well, and they're going to play on to play Alabama. So that was fun as well. But another game yesterday, another play-in game with the 16 seeds, which I don't agree with, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I mean, really a first-time celebration for Wright State, being able to advance, win their first NCAA tournament game. Great to see for that squad. They won 93-82 over Bryant in the play-in to, I believe now they're going to I don't want to say they're playing Baylor, but that's not correct, right? No, that's not correct. Yeah, I'm all fine with my bracket here. I've already filled out too many. I'm already all over the place what teams are going where. And I will figure that out here in just a second. But I think there was a lot of good things you saw. Tanner Holden, oh my gosh, that guy, incredible player. I mean, 37 points, 11 boards from him. He was awesome. Single-handedly had his way out there. And it was certainly interesting to see him explode because I think that's a name that Wright State people knew really well as a good player, but not all of us knew who Tanner Holden was until last night. And Tanner Holden is just put on an absolute freak show. He was incredible from the guard spot. He was lighting it up virtually from everywhere. I mean, he was getting to the basket and getting boards. So it was a really, I mean, his game looked fundamentally solid as I've seen from a lower 16 caliber team in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it was up there. I mean, I wouldn't say it rivaled like maybe a John Morant performance, but I mean, he played fantastic last night. And good kudos to Wright State. They got their first win, I believe, in an NCAA tournament history.
Yeah, true. And I mean, their coach has a pretty solid name too, if I do say so myself, Mr. Scott Nagy. So, I was kind of rooting for them either way. So, yeah, they played really solid. I mean, when you look at the stat sheet, they just kind of outplayed Bryant. I mean, that's the one thing, especially when you see like these 16 seed play-in games. I like seeing these more than like kind of the later games with, like the Final Four, like the Elite Eight. Those are good, but just like these teams are like fighting for like, they don't always have the season to get them into the bracket. So, and especially with like 16 seeds, I don't really agree with that being the play-in because, you're already had such a good season, and not being a Power 5 like school, you really can't like make a case for it because all these big ones. So why not make it so that way? It's always just the 11th and 12th seeds I have to play in rather than, these 16 seeds, because who knows if Bryant's going to be back next year, and who knows if Wright State's going to be back next year. And I mean, it sucks because they should have made it, but they didn't. So that's one thing that I don't necessarily agree with. But Wright State's moving on. They played really solid. These ones are always super exciting because I think these guys have more heart, or they play with more heart and just play with more stuff that got approved than, the big name schools.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be playing Arizona, the number 1 seed in San Diego on Friday in the West Regional game.
Never say never.
Never say never. 16-1 once again. Don't get your hopes up. But the way Tanner Holden plays, they're going to give the Wildcats a fit coming up. So that's going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, the one thing I was going to mention too on that before we get into the previous games from Tuesday, if you're a lower caliber conference champion and you're playing for an automatic bid in the tournament, why does that entail you to have to play in a play-in game? Why do we have... Because here's the thing. You can lock up the 16, 15, 14s all you want. That's totally cool by me. If that's what... Because, I mean, it's given those guys a chance to play. Whereas the at-large teams, they're scratching their teeth just to get in, and they're not going to be opposed to playing in a play-in game. You know what I mean? Like,
because
Michigan, frankly,
should have been in a
playing game, right? And I mean, they got bumped up, of course, because of some of the things that went on as far as automatic bids are concerned with teams like Richmond, who got themselves basically in one of the 12 spots Michigan would have had by knocking off Davidson. And that was one thing that bumped up. And then obviously A&M got left out as well. But those teams, they had bad seasons and they're making the tournament and they're getting rewarded just as much as some of these teams. Like, we've seen literally 27, 28, 29 win teams playing in as a 16 seed, and they're going to play in game. It's just tough to see some of these teams, and obviously, I mean, Bryan and Wright State aren't necessarily the examples. I mean, they're both 10-loss teams. I mean, I understand. I totally understand that.
You can make the warrant that, like, they don't deserve to just have an outright spot, but like, 16 seed team, and especially when you look at this, like 16 seed teams, they have players that could be, NBA talent, right? And I mean, you look at John Morant. If Murray State never made the tournament, John Morant would have never been noticed, right? Because that's the only reason. So like these lower seeded teams that, like, if they get the bid, they should stay there, because you have a lot of these guys who are making, like, this tournament. They could have, the best season in their school's history. They could have just a ridiculous season, but without the tournament, they're not going to get noticed by these NBA scouts or get any recognition from the next level. And that's the one thing that is really important for these lower schools. And, the 13, 14, 15, 16 seeds is, this tournament is what's going to be able to bring these guys what they need to make sure they can get to the next level. And when you have these teams that, they have that type of talent, but they are on a team that has to play in at the 16 seed and they get knocked out. It's like, well,
what do you do?
I guess I got to go G League or try to do something with a combine. And like a combine is not anywhere near seeing what, March Madness can bring to a player's ability, right?
Yeah. Bottom line, I think this is kind of who would have known how good of a player that Tanner Holden was if it wasn't for Wright State winning this game?
Yeah.
Would he been drafted if they hadn't won this game? No,
probably
definitely not. Wouldn't even had to consider, wouldn't even looked an eye at him.
Yeah, now he actually has people looking at him and say, wow, this guy's actually really good. Like, let's see what he does against Arizona.
Would we do the same thing with Hunter Dickinson? If Michigan if they would have been in a play-in game and they would have lost, it would have been fine. The exposure-wise, it totally supports our point. I can see some of the quality of tournament. I totally understand that part. I mean, the tournament is better when we have some of these lower caliber conference teams getting kind of weeded out. I don't mean to be like disrespectful to them, but that as far as the quality fan entertainment, do we want all these 16 caliber seeds kind of filtering their way in up to maybe a 15 seed? No, obviously we don't want that. But what we're saying is there's going to be a loss of quality championship wise for some of these teams. Because, I mean, would you want to try to win out your conference championship just to play in a play-in? And no, you'd want the automatic. It's like the automatic thing. Yeah, we want to date with Arizona right now. Like, we don't want to play another team to play in. We want to play Arizona right now off of a high note, especially from their conference tournaments, as some of them winning their first one in over a decade, some years it seems like. So give them their chance right away. Don't have them try to go play another. I mean, obviously these other teams are good, but then obviously things can happen. We have injuries happen. I mean, we saw a couple guys getting banged up last night and especially Tuesday, and it's unfortunate to see as far as their exposure is concerned as well, Joe. Because I mean, when you just mentioned it, like a lot of these named guys we wouldn't know. And if they got knocked out in the play-in game, nobody would even look. So that's just the tough part.
Yeah.
And
I can make the argument to both sides, but like it's pretty set in stone that like the March Madness is there's two things that March Madness put on for: get the national championship of basketball, and also get the exposure and see the players who have fell through the cracks. That didn't get the major D1 offers, but they went to those group of 5 schools and they're ridiculously good at basketball, but they just didn't have the exposure to get there. And this is going to be their chance to really play out. And the one thing about it is like, the playing games can kind of show like which players are actually going to like show out, like with Holder and stuff like that. Like if he didn't play well, then they will be knocked out. So, I mean, you can say like this kind of helps with their drafts or with their ability to get drafted or with their ability to make it to the next level, but it's still like, I'd much rather see these teams get a lock so that way we can actually see them rather than these players that have to get knocked out that are at these group of 5 schools.
Yep, I would absolutely agree. But some other play-in games that happened on Tuesday that we missed over from our previous episode. Indiana getting the win over Wyoming. I think fairly
Big
expected.
Ten, baby.
Big Ten making their case for now. Obviously, tournament's still beginning, and obviously,
usually Big Ten kind of falls apart a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see Michigan's fate as this episode is aired. You'll probably already know the final
Game's actually
score.
going on right now.
Yeah, it is.
I may
actually.
or may not have it on a separate tab.
That's fine. Indiana with the win. Trace Jackson Davis looks legit as he was in the regular season. He played fantastic, 29-9. He was huge. Wyoming, they were pretty. I want to say one-dimensional coming in. You could definitely tell they wanted to play inside a lot of this game because that's their strengths with guys like Hunter Maldonado, but Indiana did a great job of isolating that and being able to take it to a more perimeter game and stretch the floor out, and then obviously getting Trace Jackson Davis in space, and they were able to make some big plays in transition. That was really huge for that team because right now they look pretty good. I mean, they were struggling a little bit offensively early on, both teams-wise. It was a little bit of a defensive slugfest, which we weren't really expecting from this game, but it certainly turned to that, and that's really the thing with March is the things that you rely on aren't going to be there some games. What are you going to do? That's why we like some of the multi-dimensional teams. That's really the difference why teams like Baylor and Gonzaga made it as opposed to Illinois last year.
Yeah, true. And one thing too is you look at it and you like the stat line at least, and like Indiana really struggled with their ability to get it from the arc, because Wyoming kind of really showed like that was one of their more fast of the game, because Indiana was like 2 for 13, which is terrible.
That's bad.
Wyoming was at least 6 for 19, which still isn't something to shake a stick at or anything, but it's better than Indiana. But the reason that they won it is because those second chance opportunities. I mean, they out rebounded them on the offensive side, 15-7. So that's a lot of more chance that they are able to just get a rebound and put it up for that quick little layup. And when you have 8 more than that, that's 16 points right there, and that's the difference of them losing to Wyoming 58-52 compared to them winning 66-58. So that's the big thing, is like those second chance things. That really was the reason why Wyoming lost this, is because when the shots weren't falling for Indiana, they were able to pick it up down low and really start to fill it up there on those short range, kind of more efficient and high chance buckets.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, but
yeah, we're just on the same wavelength.
Same wavelength. Twin telepathy, maybe in question mark. I mean, we're not twins, but maybe telepathy.
Maybe we just spent so much time together that we just know what we're going to say.
I mean, we have been together on the show for 2 years, so
that is true.
Could be very well true. But the final first 4 game, the first one of the 4, Texas Southern beating Texas A&M Corpus Christi 76-67. Texas Southern's experience definitely showed out early on, especially guys like Bryson Etienne with 21 points. Huge. I think that's their third NCAA tournament win in 5 seasons, as they've literally gotten the short end of the stick with almost every play-in game possible. But hey, that's still more wins than some other teams that have played pretty good in regular season, not so much in the postseason. Yeah, we might say that Texas Southern has more wins in the last 3 years than Ohio State. That's what it is. I mean,
we ain't going to say it, but you guys can look it up.
We're not going to say it because we're nice guys. Well, we already did, so it's over.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I mean, good for Texas Southern. I mean, the experience definitely showed out, like I said.
Their bench really came to play.
Yes,
Holy crap.
Exactly. Their bench was absolutely fantastic. So a lot of good things for them. I mean, they're going to have a tough test coming up against the number 1 seed. So I think it's going to be really interesting now to see a potential game of where do you think that Texas Southern goes into their game of, you're in the situation of like, yeah, we won the play-in game. Yeah, we won a game, but I mean, now we're gonna have to play Kansas. And now we're gonna have to play Kansas, and that game will be on tonight. But hard to go from we're playing a team is equivalent to ourselves as far as record, as far as seeding, one of the best 4 teams in the country.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's always tough about like these 16 seeds, especially like the play-ins, and like even when it's like 15 or 14 seeds, it's like, hey, they made it to the tournament. Yeah, like love to see that's like the pinnacle of like where you want to be for college basketball. And then it's like, oh shoot, we got to play like a Kansas or a Baylor, or even if like North Carolina first, like one year when they were number 1, I think they had to play like, what was it? Like Cleveland State, I think it was. So that's the one tough part. Is like,
was in there,
Hey, but UMBC, they did it. So it can happen again.
They paved the way.
People thought it was impossible, but they did it.
Yes, they paved the way, and hopefully we see more of those to come, because that just makes March Madness even better.
That much better, man. That much better.
Gonna be a blast. But games are starting underway. Your bracket, if you're listening to this right now, your brackets are locked as well as ours. I will admit, Joe, I made 2 changes to the bracket that I came out on Tuesday.
Really hoping Michigan wins, because if they don't, it's going to be a rough start for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So the 2 changes that I made to my bracket going in right before, obviously, the tournament locked and you can't change your bracket. And one of them was against my own will, and that was I put Kansas in over Iowa, and I know how much I don't want to pick Kansas, but I did look into some research because that matchup was itching at me. And whenever I kept talking about it, I was like, I love Iowa so much, but I looked at the numbers, and the numbers just kept eating me up. So I ended up going with the numbers that I believe the 1 seed has won 43 of the last 49 matchups between a 1 and a 5. So that one, yeah, I kind of had to go there. But and then I believe the other one that I changed, if I remember correctly, was Tennessee. I had beating Villanova, and the reason why is because I forgot Villanova played Tennessee early in the year and beat them. How do you beat a team twice in March Madness? It is very uncommon. So I went with the Volunteers there, but those were the only changes. Nobody else advanced from there on out. I still have Tennessee losing to Arizona, and then I have Kansas losing to Auburn, which I'm kind of sketched about because I feel like Auburn as a 2 seed, they're either going to lose like first round or be an Elite 8 team. I don't think there's any in between.
No in between.
No.
There is no in between. And that's the one thing that, like, when I was making the bracket, I was like, I see them getting to like the Sweet 16 at least. Like, because I don't really think that USC or Miami has what it takes to, topple them at all. But now that I say this, like, there's a possibility that they could like lose. Like, this might be like was it this one or was it yeah, this one was like, I was like, this could be the very possible 15-2 upset that like I was talking about. But Auburn, they're either going to go out first round or second round or make it to like the Elite 8. No in between.
I feel, it feels weird. I mean, we're obviously going to be watching Jabari Smith and that whole region as what John Rothstein calls the region of superstardom. And I think that certainly represents that quadrant really well. So, I mean, you gotta imagine that you look at this whole bracket setup, and obviously we got games going right now, which is really exciting. I hope everybody's got them on their television right now as you're listening to this show, which we appreciate you. And don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are on. But I think you have to look at a lot of these games. I mean, especially today on Thursday and tomorrow Friday, where you're just like, throw my bracket aside. These are going to be great games. I mean, we're talking some fantastic potential matchups on deck for these upcoming days. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing the game between North Carolina and Marquette, just because I want to see what North Carolina shows up. And I really want to see a lot of the Boise State-Memphis game is definitely going to be on my TV at 1:45. That one's going to be fantastic. And even one that I would argue that I think is going to turn into a really good game, Arkansas and Vermont. I think is going to turn into a great game. That's one I kind of got as a sleeper going in. But, I mean, St. Mary's, Indiana might be an interesting one as well. There's a lot of great games that are going to be coming up over the next 2 days. Friday, I think there's even better matchups as far as on paper. We got like Ohio State, Loyola, Chicago. We got teams like Texas, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Notre Dame could turn into good games. Michigan State, Davidson's going to probably be awesome. So those games are going to be super fun. And I think it's just a really testament to the tournament as we're going to make brackets. I mean, I'll admit, I've probably made 10. Joe's probably made how many now?
I have like 5. The only one I care about is our comm class bracket because it actually has extra credit on the line.
Yeah, that one has extra credit.
So like I took that one pretty serious. Yeah, but other ones I was just like, I'll toss in a little bit. Like, there's nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we got 50.
I'm getting that 10 points of extra credit.
I want that too.
Or 9 points. Who knows?
Let's get 19 points between us. There we go. Only one of us can win, but one of us can get second. Let's steal the majority of the class's points. From our knowledge, extreme knowledge of the sports.
Our crazy knowledge of everything. But
yes, because we follow March Madness 24/7, right, Andy?
Hey, I'm watching the Michigan game right now.
Yeah, you are. You're the researcher.
If you want to update on the score right now, and if you're following along with us, even though we're not live right now, it is like 11-19, I think. Something like that.
Slow start. I mean, we obviously didn't travel Devontae Jones, and that's going to be
11-16. That's what it is right now.
11-16. Okay. I mean, not traveling Devontae Jones concussion protocol, man. That's questionable. I know it's already going to happen.
Colorado can shoot though.
Colorado can shoot. David Roddy's a presence inside, but I mean, this is a huge opportunity for some of our younger guards to step up. I want to see Kobe Buffkin play early and often because that guy could be a huge, huge boost. I know Frankie Collins is probably going to start in Devontae Jones' absence, but he could be fantastic. That's a guy that I really want to see develop in this program. But, I mean, it's going to be fun March. I mean, it's already going to be wild, and it's only been the first 32 minutes of what'll be the next 2 weeks. So
it's going to be crazy. You already know I'm going to have every single game on my laptop during class. Yep. I don't think anybody's going to be paying attention for these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably not.
Somebody in my class on Tuesday was like, yo, can we just put up on the projector and just watch the Michigan game in class? And my teacher was like, I would, but we're crazy far behind. So I was like, unfortunate. Well, I'm going to watch it on my laptop anyways, but.
That's what he said.
I'm going to watch it on my laptop.
Oh, I thought he said that's what he said. I was like,
no, we can't.
Okay,
we're not going to put it up on the projector.
Well, I'm going to watch it anyway.
But I'm going to watch it. Yeah. I don't really care.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be watching it. Shout out to all the high school. I saw a tweet about this. Shout out to all the high school teachers that used to put it in the background. Dude, those were the clutch teachers, man.
I'll tell you what.
Those are the people that turned me into the man I am today.
Exactly. My history teacher from high school, Mr. Baggin. Shout out Mr. Baggin. He would always have the tournament on, especially Mr. What's his name? Mr. Eric, too. Those two guys would always have the thing on, and they'd be like, listen, I'm going to give you a paper, fill it out. It's like a work day. We just have to do like the chapter review, but we're going to have the game on, and we're going to have it loud. So just finish your work. We're going to watch the game. And I was like, sick. Nice. I finished my work. I watched the rest of the game for like the 40 minutes of class. It was the best time.
Yeah, I will say one of my fondest March Madness memories, I believe it was in 7th or 8th grade. I want to say it might have been 8th grade. A lot of my good friends from high school know all about this class, but we had a class called Math Exploration, and which was actually my second choice, believe it or not. I wanted the science exploration class to go outside and do like ecology stuff in the nature and the ponds and stuff, and I thought that was cool. But Math Exploration was my second choice, and I was really glad I took it, especially for the March Madness, because we did actual research on this. Shout out to Mr. DeVos for making it an epic couple weeks where we filled out brackets and we did all the statistical breakdowns of what really makes your best bracket. And I will tell you, literally straight up, we did brackets based on like offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, who has the better mascot. I mean, that one was kind of subjective, but it is what it is. We went straight chalk, straight upset. We did the whole 9 yards. You want to know which the best one was? Coin flip. It was a coin flip. It was a coin flip, straight up. And I will say, like, I think a couple of them, I know one that I had, I was pretty fortunate. I only had, I think, like 2 of the 16 and 15s winning. So, because I'm sure that would have had it fall apart just a little bit. But the reality is, that's what these games are. We can seed, we can analyze, we can see all the rankings. But in reality, one team's going to play, one team's going to play, one team's going to win, one team's going to lose. 50% winning percentage. Same thing as a coin flip. And that's all we learn each and every year. Because in reality, there's going to be a team that we say is literally impossible to win over, like a Montana over Texas Tech. Probably could happen. I have literal confidence that Texas Tech can go to the Elite Eight, but they could easily lose in the first round. And it might probably happen.
Even if you look at like GLIAC tournament, like Davenport was the least rated seed, and they go on and win the whole thing.
Exactly.
So like
it happens.
Anything can happen
every single year, and we try to predict it, and we try even harder, and that just gets us more and more far away because the analysts always do bad in brackets, fantasy sports, and gambling. Because why? We know too much information, and we don't have enough. I don't want to say like common sense, but we use numbers a lot when we should
sometimes
probably be using more common sense.
We overthink it way too much than we actually should. And then that's what kind of makes it so that way we don't have anything.
Exactly. We're going to bet it. Said it better myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, that's our end of the March Madness as we transition to our final topic here of the show. Obviously, the lockout is over. I talked about this a little bit on a little bit more of our recent episodes. The most Mad March yet, or I think something around there as far as the title is concerned. You can find it in the feed, but that was the day that the chains were taken off the fences at Major League spring training facilities, and the lockout was officially over. And now we have free agency, and boy, is it taking the sports world by storm. We got
It's been
huge
going crazy,
deals going
dude.
down.
Crazy. I mean, just to name a few, Chris Bryant, 7-year deal with the Rockies.
Woo!
He's moving around a lot after he got pushed away from the Cubs a few years ago. Freddie Freeman now heading to LA for a 6-year deal. Thought he was going to be a Brave for life, but hey, you don't see that too much anymore in the league anyways. I mean, Kyle Schwarber, he's kind of a moving around guy ever since he was with the Cubs during that World Series year, but now he's headed to the Phillies after, who was he with? I can't even remember who he was with.
Schwarber?
Yeah.
The Cubs?
Now he got
Nationals?
traded from the Cubs.
To the Nationals.
Oh, Nationals now to the Phillies. But I don't know. It's crazy right now. Anyone catching your eye, Brandon?
Yeah, obviously the biggest domino of them all, where's Carlos Correa going to go? I think that I feel like the unfortunate reality is that he's probably going to go back to Houston.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay.
I think that kind of, now that we've seen more teams.
I don't know. Alex Bregman has been taking some reps at shortstop.
No, he has. And I think that's a good backup plan for in case if the Braves make a huge offer and offer him, because, they're not afraid to make the big moves. Especially the Matt Olson deal. And they already gave him an extension. He hasn't even played a single game in an Atlanta uniform. That's how confident this team is trying to go for a repeat. But I think there's a lot that I took out of the deals that were already made, and I think there's a lot that you can look at as far as like the Dodgers having maybe too much money. I don't want to get into that.
Dodgers have so much money, dude. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hard to compete, but here's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of money on teams that's never spent. And I know this is kind of directly in my Motown-related fan bases here that Yelich doesn't spend a lot. And, we saw the Javi Baez deal. I think a lot of people said a secondary deal for sure in not Carlos Correa, because we wanted Carlos Correa, but I think in reality people knew that it was going to take 200, 300 even maybe. And Yelich probably shut that down. No, we're finding an alternative. We're not even going that route.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of the realm of where we're at as far as Major League Baseball is you're not going to spend, you're not going to win. And that's especially going on, it seems like, in the last couple of years. I think the only really exceptions is probably the Yankees, because I don't think they have the right coaching staff there personally. I don't think they have the development team there personally. They have the money to spend,
but their whole setup there is just kind of not good for success.
Bingo. I would agree. Too much star power actually can hurt you. And I think they're learning that, unfortunately. But, some of the latest deals I'm looking at, personally, sticking in Motown, the Chaffin deal I think is awesome. I love that deal. That guy is awesome. I know I've talked to a couple buddies about it, and I think there's a general, thumbs up. This is a great deal. A short 2-year contract. I think there's a player option after 1 year. Great reliever. He had a sub-2 ERA, I believe, a year ago. Career-wise, I think it's probably around 3. Very versatile guy. I think he had like 70 appearances last year. He's going to be a great asset to this bullpen and makes it instantly better. Also, grade A mustache. Phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely.
Incredible mustache. I think that should get enough points as it is. But I think there's a lot you can look forward to with this market still going, I think, because, there's a lot of deals that also fell like under the news, like Corey Seager going to the Rangers for pretty much $32 million a year. That kind of went under the radar because that was pre-lockout as well. You got also like Max Scherzer's going to be a Met with Thor, with Noah Syndergaard. So there's more coming around.
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
There's a lot.
Not even to mention Andrew McCutchen is headed to Milwaukee now.
Yeah,
he's not going to be in the Phillies uniform anymore. Nelson Cruz with the Nationals now for a 1-year deal, so we'll see what happens. Blockbuster trade. Josh Donaldson is headed to the Yankees.
Oh my God,
that one's going to be a big one. The Bringer of Rain is now going to be in the Bronx, so that's going to be crazy.
Also re-sign Rizzo.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens with that. Jose Iglesias, the former Tiger, not going to be with the Rockies. So I think the Rockies are trying to build up a really solid infield there. You got now Chris Bryant, Jose Iglesias, Alex Colome as well is going to be there too. Trevor Story now is a free agent. So I think they're not going to really go for that, at least for the Rockies. They're not going to try to re-sign him. So we'll see where that goes for them. And there's some other ones too. Clayton Kershaw is going to return to the Dodgers for at least 1 more year. So we'll see if he wants to try to make another Cy Young year or something like that. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see if he leaves the Dodgers or retires soon, because I would love to see him be kind of a one team, one career type guy. So, but I don't know. There's a lot of guys that are moving around that are pretty surprising. I mean, especially Marcus Stroman is signing with the Chicago Cubs now.
Yeah. And I also missed. I meant to say Jacob deGrom. Noah Syndergaard's actually going to the Angels, and that's one I forgot about too. That happened a while before the lockout. See, it's like 90 days later. Well, how much you can forget, right? And they think spring break is a great idea for learning. I mean, obviously it's going to stay because but teachers know we forget about stuff. But anyway, there's a lot of things that can go under the table when you got a lot of things going on, and I think there's a lot of I'm not calling it under the table moves, but under the circuit of news deals that I think are in really good shape as far as, I mean, I think that the Chaffin deal, I mean, no one's going to talk about that on First Take, right? Is he worth that money? Like, who is Andrew Chaffin? We don't even know, right? Like half the Tigers fans probably didn't even know who Andrew Chaffin is until they heard yesterday, and they probably Googled his recent stats and they found his tape from some of the games that he pitched, and he's great. But I think there's a lot of other great moves that are going to make these teams like the glue that really they need moving forward, right? And I mean, we've seen some teams that might have too much kind of glue players, and I think like Oakland is a prime example of that. And they pretty much just went on fire sale mode. I mean, I don't know how many guys that they still have after all these deals have made, because I know they lost Marte, I know they lost Olsen, Kanha, Chapman's on its way to Toronto. So, I mean, how many guys do they have left? It seems like Yan Gomes is gone. I mean, we got Chaffin now over to Detroit now too. So there's just a ton of moves being made from Oakland's side. Now they're going to be in rebuild mode, and I feel bad for those fans because I thought they had a pretty good build going, but then again, it wasn't winning enough games. In reality, that's just what it takes sometimes. But all we know is Detroit needs to find some all-caliber pitching and keep them there, please. Stop letting other guys get rings in other places.
Exactly.
It's so annoying.
I'm telling you, everybody's going to go to Detroit for that one-stop shop to get a ring for the place after. It's like...
Yeah, it's like perfect.
I don't know. It's just annoying how that works. But I don't know. MLB free agency is something fun because, it kind of... I feel like it moves around a lot more, and a lot of these players kind of have a little bit bigger of like an impact and stuff. And although like... I'm kind of an old head when it comes to that, where like I like to see players like kind of have that loyalty to the team where they get their start from, like Freddie Freeman and stuff like that. But if they want to go, they can. But I don't know. It's a mix of everything. But I'm excited to see what this is all going to do. Especially free agency isn't over, so I'm excited to see what the Tigers are going to do. They still have a crap load of money to spend if they really wanted to. Don't know if they will because Illich just doesn't spend any money. But we'll see. I mean, we got guys. I mean, did you hear what Miggy said about what is his Torkelson and Green?
Yeah,
he's like, they are ridiculous.
Play them.
I know. Get them in the league as soon as possible.
Yeah, when you got your star player of your franchise saying, play these young guys
are ridiculous.
They're gonna be good. They're gonna be really good.
That's the one thing is we might not have the best ability to. I think that's the one thing that Illich focuses on. It's like. Build from within. Build from our farm system.
Yeah.
And we do have the best farm system in the whole league. Like, that's the good thing about it.
Yeah,
but
one of the best for sure.
It wouldn't hurt to get another guy that, like, is already established to be a great guy, a great player. Yeah. So that's the one thing is, like, we don't spend a lot in free agency, but at least we got the farm system to prove it. So
yeah, there's still. I mean, you bring Nick Castellanos back.
Maybe shout some. I was gonna say JD Martinez, but I don't know how good he's doing.
I know there's a couple guys that I think that the Tigers have been looking into. I know one of them is Michael Pineda, and some people are like, who's Michael Pineda? He was the guy for the Yankees that got busted for having pine tar in his neck from a long time ago. That guy, but
that's funny.
Still a great player. I mean, he's just had some injured stints over the last couple of years. So will that be a move that they're willing to make? I don't know, because we already have enough injured pitching as it is, a la Jordan Zimmerman, a la Michael Fulmer. But there's still a lot to go around, and I think there's going to be a lot of fun things to still see, because we still got some middle infields to figure out, because we got Carlos Correa and Trevor Story still stop shop right now in the market.
I don't mind Trevor Story coming here.
You don't mind that? I don't mind that. I think right now the Red Sox got the front step in the door in his negotiation tables, but you never know. I mean, we've seen a lot of things go down. I don't think the Tigers were the number one team going in for Eduardo Perez or Eduardo Rodriguez. So
yeah,
you never know, man. You never know. There's something special kind of brewing here. I think AJ Hinch and I think the whole Detroit community with all the sports starting to feel it a little bit. I love it. Mm-hmm. Motown. Detroit versus everybody.
Motown's getting back, baby.
Best laptop sticker of all time.
That's true. I have that on my laptop right now. Detroit versus everybody. But, I mean, that's just the one thing. We're doing really solid. I mean, to go to it, I mean, Mort Sider in the lead for the Calder Cup or Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year, and Lucas Raymond's right behind him. So we're looking solid for that. Basketball's looking a little bit up.
A little bit.
Football's looking a little bit up.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be a fun next couple of years for Detroit fans.
Yeah, I mean, and now we're starting to spend a little money. All the teams are starting to spend a little.
Please.
Javi Baez, DJ Chark. I mean, we get the Marvin Bagley trade. I mean, we're starting to get some of these young guns up from hockey. All right, we're starting to build and build around. And now when you got the full foundation built, it's all uphill from there. I cannot wait as a Detroit sports fan. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we appreciate you and all of our followers interacting with us and following us along on this long journey that will continue to go wherever we go. But thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe on what's favorite podcast platform, Joe?
You can hop on Spotify. You can hop on Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely.
Amazon is getting the app or podcast platform.
What? Breaking news?
What?
Oh, that might be brewing in the backstory right now. So just be on the tune out for that, as well as don't forget on social media, as always, for all news, notification, and more at the MVSP on Twitter and Instagram. But Joe, that's it for us. I guess we'll be back next week. And until next time,
take care, everybody.